make 500 creatives in 3 seconds, and most of them just don't work.
It's actually trying to be as distinct as possible with each concept.
What would take a couple of hours trying to get 50 ads up into an ad account, I can quite literally do in 5 minutes.
Welcome to the Media Buying War Room, where the top 1% of vetted media buyers break down what's actually working for them in paid ads right now. I'm Matteo, founder of MediaBuyer.com. Today, our top media buyers are breaking down how they're using AI in their media buying. Not to run ads, but to work faster and think deeper. Let's jump in. For today's question, here's the big one. What is your best AI use case right now? Either a tool that you're using or a workflow or AI agent. What's something that's actually been improving your results or saving you time? I'll give each of you guys a few minutes. Ogie, let's start with you.
What's working from an AI standpoint? So yeah, look, from a Google lens, I would say there's a lot of things that are useful in terms of improving the speed of execution, especially when it comes to building and optimizing campaigns. So I would say the first one I'll focus on is around building. So when we're building out new campaigns, keyword research and building ad copy are generally quite tedious tasks. Typically, we would have to go and research a number of competitors, see what types of ad copy they're using, see what keywords they're serving ads against. Now, using the right prompts within either ChatGPT or within Claude, you can very quickly get a good industry analysis or an overview on what are the core highest intent terms within a specific category. And I think that gives you a really good baseline in terms of understanding what are the core buckets of consumer intent. And then pairing that with Google Keyword Planner, you can then see the overall search volumes and competition on those terms. So it just speeds up that research process in terms of keyword planning. And then the second part, once you've kind of built out your general keyword and ad group structures for new search campaigns, building ad copy and creative has become, I would say, it's now at a point where if you prompt correctly, you can build most of your ad copy, headlines and descriptions primarily from AI. You obviously still will need to, edit and tweak and slightly change things, but that ability, for example, to put in clarity on character count, for example, where it's like, okay, all headlines need to be maximum 30 characters, all descriptions need to be maximum 90 characters. And once you put those kind of criterias into your prompt and you give it some examples or some kind of core USPs from the competitors are using, for example, it will then generally take that and run with it. The one thing that we generally find, you still need to focus kind of ad group by ad group to doing it this way. And I would say that's still maybe a gap in my skill set that I haven't quite got to the point where I have agents working for themselves and kind of doing that whole workflow itself, which I think is maybe possible, but I'm not quite there yet. So that's, I would say, just in terms of the benefits from a building standpoint. One tool that I've been using quite a lot recently, again, focusing on the search side of things, is so people who are deep in the PPC space will know what kind of n-grams are, which essentially is a string of terms in a query. And there's a very famous script which has been around for probably 6 or 7 years, which essentially it's like an n-gram mining script, which allows you to pull out all the different n-gram 2, 3, 4 different strings of terms that your ads are triggering against, and essentially evaluate the impact of them. But what it gives you is a massive data set, and it gives you an output, which if you have 10, 15 campaigns with 5 or 6 ad groups per campaign, you could be looking at hundreds of thousands of data entries in terms of overall search terms that you're looking at. And naturally, analyzing a data set like that can take a lot of time. You can play with filters and you can kind of push things around. However, building a very strong custom prompt into something like ChatGPT and uploading the output of that script essentially can get you to a point where you have a full-time data analyst who can go and essentially fine-tooth comb that whole large data set of search terms and give you clear, concise insights that you can then use to both take what's performing really well, which will be like your high-performing n-grams, and then double down on those types of queries by building ad groups and ad copy to match and improve it. But I would say more importantly, with the n-gram scripts, is around finding what's not working and what's the loss-leading parts of your account that are burning budget, but not necessarily driving incremental profit for the business. And it's more around then using that to build negative keyword lists or create exclusions on the back of that. And I'll typically just create it where, using again kind of the 80-20 rule, what is the 80% most important terms that are causing the biggest loss, and getting them out of the account as quick as possible, as opposed to trying to say, okay, let's give me a list of every single loss leading term. What's causing the most damage? How do I quickly utilize AI to figure that out and then exclude that traffic using negative keyword lists? So they're kind of, I'd say, two of the main areas that I've been finding super helpful at the moment. Data analysis for larger data sets, and then also ad copy and keyword research. I would say it's a lot, like, I don't think it's at a point where it's able to make decisions in terms of what works within the ad account, but it's very good at analyzing large data sets of information that I can pull from the account, upload into the AI, and get it to essentially analyze that for me and get key insights.
I can jump into how I'm using AI and use cases and all those sorts of things while Charlie sorts his account. So, look, I mean, as I kind of just highlighted, like, yes, trying not to be first to market with a lot of things, just because of the learning curve on some of these things is quite high, and we need to be executing at a pretty rapid rate. But obviously using a lot of AI tools within kind of our agency and our team across a whole range of things. We have a great setup across the platforms, but Gemini and ChatGPT, where we have like our team projects, and it has all the contextual information around what we do, like as a small agency, what we execute on, what our goals are, and what our thinking is around like the meta algorithm, for example, and what's important to us in terms of like sequencing, gem modeling, Andromeda, and not just taking, what everybody's saying about it and their context, but how we operate as an agency, and that feeds into our strategy, and particularly our creative strategy. So it's just adding that extra layer of everything that we do and everything that we want the AI to output for us is focused around what we're trying to achieve, not just its own general knowledge or, AI that it comes up with. So that's definitely helped us quite significantly in terms of using it effectively and efficiently, but reaching our goals, because we know it's always referencing how we operate. And so part of that is, for creative, for example, like we always operate in messaging families whenever we're doing creative strategy and development. And so all of our outputs in terms of creative strategy fit within these kind of core frameworks that we've pre-developed and pre-given the AI system. So I think that use case has just been super beneficial for us. And then outside of that, we use a few other platforms as well. There's a platform called Atria, which is like Foreplay and a bunch of others out there, but it has some quite useful AI tools baked into it. I know you can do this with other AI platforms and just ChatGPT in general, but they do have a very good like customer review AI section where you put in all of your customer reviews and it spits out ad angles. And I really like the buyer motivations, customer personas, etc. that gives us. I feel like this should be a default for every brand out there, like getting your customer reviews and sticking them through AI. And if it's not, then like definitely do that. What you can discover from your customer reviews just by consolidating them into like an AI output is incredible in terms of the direction it can take creative strategy or just overall business strategy. And you can do that in any tool. So that's kind of like an easy win. But the customer reviews can be a little bit limiting in that most of them are positive and they've bought your product. The other part that's actually quite nice is scraping all of your Facebook, Instagram, etc. comments, because they are people that are putting up objections before they buy the product. Price, quality, perception of it not being for them, etc. And that is really good for objection handling ads. I love objection handling ads. I think they are such a good qualifier, and this helps you formulate the strategy around those objection handling ads. So definitely pull in sources that maybe don't always give you positive comments as well, because I think that's a really nice framing exercise as well for some of your ads. But I think, with all of these things, you only get out of it what you put in, and the setup behind the scenes is really what makes AI platforms work for your business efficiently and effectively. And I think we certainly noticed a really big how we were using it as a team by giving it the contextual information about what we're trying to do as an agency. Everything runs like in projects, so everybody's working in the same projects for each brand that we work with, whether there's a creative strategist, video editor, someone's writing copy, it's got all of that information centralized in one place. And we do that, provide that contextual information across the brands that we work with as well, in terms of their goals, etc., whatever they're trying to achieve. So, I think it's quite easily doing the legwork of 2 full-time hires at the moment. So, that cost for us in terms of manpower is down, and what we're able to execute on is significantly higher. But the human element is still very important to us at the moment. I think we haven't lent into a lot of AI ad creation yet. I think we do a little bit of that, but we're not doing big automated workflows that flow into Nano Banana and generate thousands of ads. I think there's a time and a place for that.
So I was going to ask, when you mentioned Atria, how you find their static ad generation, if you've started using any of them.
Yeah, I think I only use that for ad ideas at the moment. I think it can produce some good ad ideas, and so what Charlie's referring to is in Atria, once you have your analytics set up and linked up to your Facebook account, it'll then create ad ideas for you off the back of winning concepts that it sees within your own ad account. So it just does that automatically, which is quite cool. It's definitely a really useful tool. I'll just say the output isn't ad quality ready yet, and some of the variations are very similar to what is already running, which is fine because it's trying to iterate on winners. But yeah, it has definitely helped in come up with a couple of new ideas. Have you found it useful, or what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's gotten a lot better. I think exactly what you said about the variations. I think what we're seeing these days with Meta is there's no need for subtle static variations. It's actually trying to be as distinct as possible with each concept, and I think that's where Atria is not quite good enough. But I think the variations it creates are all ad ready. Probably 12 months ago would have been fantastic, and it just needs to work on trying to bring the same quality but more distinction, because in theory it's incredibly well placed, right? It's got all of the ad data, it's got all of the creative data across many different platforms, so I expect it to get a lot better a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think you would think that it would, wouldn't you? But great tool. Use another one called Compagno. Specifically use that with a particular brand that uses Compagno and have set that up, and that is such a great tool. I predominantly use it for ad creation, ad ideas, etc. But their point of difference is very much being able to take in all business information. It's very founder specific in that you can train the AI to know exactly and think exactly like the founder. And so if you're producing counter content, you go into that founder's little AI chatbot and say, hey, I want to create some ads from your point of view. And it has all of the contextual information about the founder, how they speak, what their natural language is, and produces content exactly as it has come from them. And so that's quite a newish tool that's come out and is fantastic, and really enjoy using it. But yeah, there's so many great platforms out there.
How about yourself, Charlie? What either tools are you using, or what's a very helpful use case with AI that's helping you get some better results or helps you save you some time?
Yeah, so I think more often than not, I'm in a very similar camp to Ogie, sort of assisting with research, ad copy creation, that sort of thing, and streamlining that process. But what I have found very useful is a lot of these tools and a lot of the way the platforms run these days is making the actual ad buying a lot more streamlined. I think you still want to be very present in the accounts, but the actual labor that you're doing is much lower. But the thing that I think was lagging behind that, so on the one hand, that facilitates us taking on a lot more clients or working more deeply with each client. But I think what was lagging for me was this sort of client communication side of things. And the reality is the client comms is not necessarily going to have a big impact on the ad account and how the ads perform, but it's necessary to make sure they know what's going on and they're happy and they can sort of give you the freedom or give me the freedom. So regular comms and regular commentary to avoid lots of sort of calls, I guess. And the tool that I found very useful for that, I use a reporting tool called Data Slayer, which is essentially a query tool. It just pulls ad platform data into a spreadsheet. And they have just released a sort of MCP AI agent. It's got access to all of the accounts that I've set up queries with, Shopify, Meta, Google, and a little bit of work just making sure it knows which accounts fall under which client. But it's become an incredibly effective way to pull very quick commentary or answer quick questions from clients. And that's just really streamlined the weekly and monthly commentary process for me. I wouldn't say it's helping me make decisions or run the ads better, but it's just helping me pull that information in a really nice presentable way easily. And going hand in hand with that is just making sure extra watertight with things like naming conventions. And then, for example, on creative, if we can start bucketing creative within various categories, you can very quickly use that tool to see week by week, day by day breakdowns within these categories, and feed back that information to the client. So that's probably been one of the most effective time-saving, fairly recent discoveries I've made in the last sort of 6 weeks or so.
Interesting. On your side, Simon, Ogie, has it helped on the communication side of things, or like reporting as well, or do you tend to stay like a little bit more like high touch in those areas?
Yeah, not a whole lot for me, but I think I'm probably just missing a trick on that one, to be honest. But yeah, I think I need to look at more like integration into the ad accounts, and that sense of being able to extrapolate and pull data out of the account with using kind of API based access, which we're not doing a lot of at the moment.
Yeah, I'm still pretty heavy on the Loom updates for a client. I think that's that personal touch, in place of a meeting is still really important. And I know we always talk about like AI and efficiency and productivity and those sorts of things, but I know a lot of the clients that I work with have hired us or me to work with me, and I think making sure that that's retained throughout certain elements of the communication is just so important. I mean, everyone's getting spammed with auto emails and updates and those sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, I use it, to an extent as part of those looms and, looking for efficiencies, but definitely making sure there's a personal element to a lot of what I do still.
Personal touch.
I would definitely agree with that. I think where it was most recently useful for me yesterday and Monday was putting together something for like a quarterly board deck meeting. And I personally find those sorts of tasks a little bit painful because you're just trying to present something to keep the board happy, which of course is important, but really I just want to focus on growing the ad accounts, and that's the stuff that gets me going. So being able to tap into a tool like that made that a sort of 1 hour versus a 6 hour task.
Love it. Awesome. Before we end it shortly here, I just want to go around the room and ask like any other tools that you guys would recommend other brands try, or other media buyers, even business owners that are running ads. Anything that comes to mind that would be useful for others?
There's one thing more that I personally am a part of, which I would say I'm only getting stuck into, but there's a lot of value in it, which is the guy called Mike Rhodes, Australian guy, who I would say is one of the goats when it comes to automation and AI and building automated agents that link with ad platforms. And some of the stuff that he's built in terms of essentially like custom workflows using Claude and Cursor, which essentially create skills in Claude, which then go and do multiple tasks for you with small input. So like one example was doing a competitor landing page audit. And instead of doing, 10 individual prompts, taking all the data, putting it into a document, re-uploading it into another prompt, you essentially put in 5 URLs and then press go. And it goes through a full workflow where it essentially analyzes each URL one by one, creates a report, compiles it into one place, reviews it, extracts it, and then essentially makes a full presentable PDF with all the clear findings in terms of call to actions, USPs, what's working well, where there's gaps in the market. And that for me was, I guess, an intro to what is possible when you build out the right workflows. I think it takes time to build them properly. And I would say piggybacking on people like this guy who is already building those workflows and building them specifically for mostly Google Ads in this case, I would say there's a lot of value in that. So I would encourage people to go and source out people who really know what they're doing. I would say on the flip side of that is avoiding the massive amount of noise on LinkedIn, which is, in particular, for example, on creative, there is every second post is here's how to make 500 creatives in 3 seconds. All you've got to do is press go. And most of them just don't work. And people are just using sloppy lead gen tactics that are built by AI, posted by AI, and responded to by AI. And that, I think, is really diluting the quality of the overall industry. And most people are just confused with an onslaught of information, and very little of it is usable or useful.
Well said.
Definitely agree with that LinkedIn sentiment. That's Yeah, it's crazy out there what's happening at the moment. But a tool that I use is called Adtable AI, created by a guy called Caleb Cruz, who is definitely one of the good guys of the meta ads space. And he's created a tool that essentially means you can upload ads to Meta in bulk. What would take a couple of hours trying to get 50 ads up into an ad account, I can quite literally do in 5 minutes with the tool that he's created. It's pretty incredible, but essentially creative goes into Google Drive through the automations, etc. This is automatically picked up and put into the Meta Ad Media library within a couple of minutes. And then you just duplicate a couple of rows in an Airtable, hit post, and any number of ads can go up in a very short amount of time. The efficiency that has created is incredible. I mean, that for the amount of ads that and clients we're servicing, that would be somebody's at least full-time job, if not more people. But I can essentially do that myself and keep control of that, which I quite like, in a very short amount of time. So yeah, if you're dealing with a lot of ads, and like there are other tools out there, definitely, but yeah, Adtable AI is definitely the one that I've found to be super useful.
Check it out. Charlie?
Yeah, it's similar for me. I use a tool called AdNova, which is also an upload tool, adnova.ai, and it's very effective. And what I like about it is I'm always looking for like rip-offs of the ones that are doing very well in the mainstream. So this is essentially a duplicate from a team based in India, very similar to like admanage.ai, which I would say is kind of the more premium option. And it pretty much does everything. It looks slightly less user-friendly, but it's very effective and very cheap. The cool thing that they're doing as well is they're trying to roll in a creative component, very similar to Atria, which is not quite as good at the moment, but it's developing fast. And then equally, they've got a sort of creative research tool, just using ad libraries of other brands. And again, it's pretty detailed. It's like, I don't know if you can relate to this. It creates these amazing detailed AI reports, but I'm not too sure if there's any actually super useful takeaways at the moment. But you're looking at it thinking this is very close to being incredibly helpful.
All right, appreciate you watching. So this is the type of stuff that we work on every single day inside of our Catalyst community. At MediaBuyer.com, we've spent over half a decade vetting over 10,000 media buyers. We put them through a 35-step vetting process, less than 1% get through. And the people that you just watched, those are just some of the people who are leading this community and who are on the forefront of media buying with AI, and who you just get direct access to. They don't just look at your ads, they're full stacked, and they are able to look at the entire business, including the ads, funnel, creatives, offer, and tell you what's working, what's not, and what they would personally do differently. So if you want in, there's a link to join Catalyst in the description below. Either way, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.